All right. So good morning, class.
Good morning.
All right. So a show of hands, who can tell me what they know about Colin Kaepernick? You know who he is? Colin Kaepernick. All right. We have one person. So you don't know about his protest. All right. For me, when I heard about Colin Kaepernick, I knew that he was protesting. All right. So you know we talked about the KWL plus. What is the K in the KWL plus?
What
Connor.
you know, what you know,
What you know. And then the W,
what you want to know,
what you want to know. And the L would be what?
what you learn.
And then the plus,
Extra.
we did a summary, right? But this is actually a concept map where you can formulate your ideas. You can put it in a graphic organizer, right? What is the purpose of using a KWL plus strategy? Tyra?
Um, um, I guess to
So what do good readers do, Bryson? You doing it? Connor?
comprehend.
Comprehend. So you're making connections to new information using what you already know. And when you generate the question, you're basically saying, well, I know this, but I'm not real sure about the how and the why. So when you read, what are you going to find out?
What you
Right? And the W at sometimes you could, I guess the W is not all is what you want to know, but what if you read the text and you don't find the information? You can use that for later research, right? So if I was talking about Colin Kaepernick, I know that he was protesting, right? But I don't know why. So what could I put in the W?
why is he doing it?
Why was he protesting, right? I want to know why. So here I brought a quote from Colin Kaepernick himself. And it says, I am not going to stand up to show pride in a flag for a country that oppresses black people and people of color. To me, this is bigger than football, and it would be selfish on my part to look the other way. There are bodies in the street and people getting paid to leave and getting away with murder. So why was he protesting?
He didn't want to protest to the. I mean, he didn't want to salute the flag because it's still colored and black people are getting killed for nothing, and you think that by salute the flag when it's still violence going on.
All right. So Tyra, did you see what she did? She used what she knew, right? She activated her background knowledge. She learned some new information. So what could we put in the L chart? Why is he protesting? All right. Unequal treatment. All right. So here we could say Colin Kaepernick protest as our topics, right? We know that he plays football, right? We know that he wants equal rights.
Why is this still going on? Why is it?
So, in talking about Colin Kaepernick, what would be he's protesting, so he's getting down on a knee. What is it about the flag that, why would you protest a piece of cloth? Haley.
People say it honors our country.
It honors our country. So his protest is not necessarily against the cloth, it's the representation of the cloth. When we did our Pledge of Allegiance this morning, we said equality for all, right? So if it's not equal, he's saying, I'm going to kneel at this flag. He's making a statement, right? So that's all that is. All right, so I'm going to model for you. A topic that we've been discussing. All right, so our topic is Civil Rights Movement. All right, so I know Martin Luther King, Rosa Parks. Who else? Malcolm.
Wasn't there somebody named Morgan?
Morgan.
Robert.
So these are just people, but what else could we generate that we know about the Civil Rights
When it
Movement?
started.
When did it start? Uh-oh.
1852 to 1860.
Yeah, 18.
Now think about that. Is the Civil Rights Movement slavery?
No.
But that's a typical student misconception, right? And with adults. So 1865 was the end of slavery, right? So the Civil Rights Movement was 1950. But in my reading, I found a misconception I had. Because when I talked about it last week, I told you, no, it really doesn't have anything to do with slavery, because this is a century later, right? So when I read this to you, I want you to listen to that. So if slavery ended in 1865, and here we are in the 1950s, a century later, why are we talking about equal rights? Wouldn't that be a good question to ask? So that's what I want to know. I want to know why. What else do we know about the Civil Rights Movement? What were they fighting for?
Equal rights.
Right.
Equal rights, freedom. Okay. What else would you want to know about the Civil Rights Movement that you don't already know? Tyra?
Why did it start?
Why did it start? Great question. Why did it start? Also, I would want to know what laws were in place, right? Were there any acts? I know about the Civil Rights Act of 1964. But who signed this act? You don't know, right? So that's another question. Who signed? Yeah. Any more questions we can generate? So just think. These are the things that we know. These are the things that we want to know. So then I'm going to read to you a passage about the Civil Rights Movement so we can see what we've learned. All right. So some people, including myself, thought that the Civil Rights Movement in America started when Martin Luther King gave his I Have a Dream speech. It started long before that. The first slave ship to bring African servants to America was in 1619. The first revolt by slaves was in 1739. Even though the Declaration of Independence stated that all men are created equal, the U.S. Constitution stated that a slave should count as 3/5 of a man when counting how many people live in a community. Though many citizens denounced the idea of slavery, Abraham Lincoln was the first president to write a law that would free all slaves. He wrote the Emancipation Proclamation in 1863. So in 1863, Abraham Lincoln wrote the Emancipation Proclamation freeing all slaves, right? So here we are in 1953, almost 100 years later, and they're protesting, right? So in 1953, even though they were no longer slaves, black people were not treated as equals in the South. They did not have equal civil rights. They had to remain separate from white people in public areas. They couldn't drink in the same water fountain, swim in the same pool, or sit together on a bus. In 1955, Rosa Parks refused to give up her seat on a city bus to a white passenger. She was arrested by the police. People were outraged by her arrest. So the Emancipation Proclamation was the first legal and public declaration by a president to ensure the equal rights of black people in America. But it wasn't until 100 years later that laws to protect their civil rights was established. Although they were no longer held as slaves, the rights of black people in America changed very little over the next 100 years. They were not treated as equals. In 1963, President John F. Kennedy announced the Civil Rights Act of 1963, which called for an end to discrimination against black people. When President Kennedy was killed in November 1963, President Lyndon B. Johnson pressed for the passage of the Civil Rights Act of 1964, and it was signed in July. All right, so what did we learn? Who signed it? Now, John F. Kennedy pushed for the law, but he was assassinated. Have y'all ever seen that assassination of John F. Kennedy? In Dallas, Texas, he was assassinated in 1963. So President Lyndon B. Johnson in 1964 was the one that signed the act. So that's something we can do. President All right, President Lyndon B. Johnson. He signed the act. Why did it start? Or when did it start? And so you can always go back and put a question because you're going to use your KWL Plus chart as a study guide. All right. So when did it start? So from our reading, I thought the same thing. I was like, oh, the civil rights movement started 1950s, 1960s. But when did it actually start?
1860.
So then we go back to our text. Some people think the civil rights movement in America started when Martin Luther King gave his I Have a Dream speech. It started long before that. The first slave ship to bring African servants to America was in 1619. The first revolt by slaves was in 1739. What's a revolt? So when you revolt, you're doing what? Pushing back, right? So in 1739. So it's not like in 1950s, 1960s, somebody woke up and said, you know what? I'm tired. Let's push back. Things have been building for a very long time. Remember we talked about Emmett Till? So the murder of Emmett Till pushed a lot of people to say no more, and a lot of kids your age, and we're gonna learn about some of those. So here we go. On Thursday morning, May 2nd, 1963, 9-year-old Audrey Faye Hendricks woke up with freedom on her mind. But before she could be free, there was something important she had to do. I want to go to jail, Audrey had told her mother. Since Mr. and Mrs. Hendricks thought that was a good idea, they helped her get ready. Her father had even bought her a new game she'd been eyeing. Audrey imagined that it would entertain her if she got bored during her week on a cell block. That morning, her mother took her to Center Street Elementary so she could tell her third-grade teacher why she'd be absent. Miss Wills cried. Audrey knew she was proud of her. Why would she be proud of her for going to jail? She also hugged all 4 grandparents goodbye. One of her grandmothers assured her, "You'll be fine." Then Audrey's parents drove her to the church to get arrested. Wait a minute.
That sounds
Wait a minute. What kind of 9-year-old volunteers to go to jail?
not me.
And what kind of parent
Agree with that.
would make sure she gets there?
They probably hate us.
And why would she get arrested at church?
Thank you.
They at church where the Lord at.
So let's think about this. Is this real?
Yeah. No. It could be.
It can be.
So is Mr. Burchett teaching you about nonfiction?
No.
Connor, can you see this? Can you read the objective today?
He said
Connor?
I will summarize the informational text using key details from the text. I will identify the cause of and impact of the civil rights movement.
All right. So am I reading you nonfiction?
No, sir.
Yes.
Huh?
Yes.
I have to, right? What is nonfiction? Real. So then it asks, is this real?
No.
Yes. Audrey Hendricks, her mother Lola, and her father Joe are real. So is this story. Audrey was the youngest of 3,000 to 4,000 black children who marched, protested, sang, and prayed their way to jail during the first week of May 1963
I wouldn't volunteer to go to jail.
in Birmingham, Alabama. Their goal was to end segregation in the most racially divided and violent city in America. So many young people suffered attacks by snarling German shepherds and days of being crammed into sweltering jail cells. Some wondered if they would survive. And if they did survive, could they accept these punishments with dignity as they had been trained to do? Somebody trained you to go to jail and to not fight back? All right. Or would they retaliate against the white policemen who were abusing them? Audrey and 3 other young people, Washington Booker III, James Stewart, and Arnetta Streeter, will be your guides through this harrowing event. Along the way, you will hear from others who lived through these times as well. So let's discuss that. We know that the children of Birmingham marched. Remember that discussion last week, using the book, We've Got a Job, the 1963 Birmingham Children's March. So we know that people were protesting during that time, right? So if they were protesting, do you think that people just let them protest peacefully?
No.
So what was Martin Luther King's message?
You're a civilian?
Well, but what was his message?
He wants all his children
He
to
was
be
non-what?
non-violent.
Non-violent, right? He didn't want any violence. So think about right now, if I wanted to protest, and I'm a teacher at the school, and I want to go down and I want to protest Walmart because their prices have been so high, all right? Every time I go into Walmart, I spend $200, $300 when I just went for bread. Right? But that's me. That's consumer error because I start grabbing this and grabbing that. But I'm gonna protest against Walmart.
Yeah, you do it.
Right? I'm gonna go out and I'm going to say, no more, your prices aren't low. No more, your prices aren't low. But I'm a teacher at the school.
You can protest.
But I'm a teacher at the school. If I protest, who's gonna teach you all?
You cannot protest, Mr. President.
But think about it. If I was your teacher,
Oh.
and I said at 8 o'clock in the morning, I'm gonna go to Walmart and I'm gonna protest because I'm tired of this. I can call a sub. The sub's down there too.
You could be with you. We can go with you.
You gonna go with me?
Yeah.
But think about this.
What?
Your parents are gonna let you go.
No.
The principal won't let us go with that.
Ain't that crazy?
So some of these children in the book, I'm not gonna go protest. Because if I go protest, I'm gonna lose my job. Because I'm not at work.
Taking
Right?
vacation.
Okay, let's take that. So I can take a vacation, but you only have so many vacation days.
Do it on the weekend.
Can it wait till the weekend?
Yes.
No.
Teachers
Why
work
not?
on
It's
weekends.
serious.
Well,
A
how you
protest.
sleep?
I am angry.
just
I
Walmart.
need
I would wait
my
till
lower
weekend.
prices now.
Don't buy it on that Walmart. Go to another place.
So think about it in the civil rights movement, right? It was more serious than low prices. We're talking about people's lives, their livelihood, right?
Protest the school.
So you protest
Too many days of the week.
too many days of the school week.
No, too much.
But you can always protest peacefully. That's your right as an American citizen, right? So do you all think that Colin Kaepernick should have been blackballed and fired for protesting?
No.
Okay.
He's too rich.
All right. So you know that we were going to talk about the different perspectives. So in thinking about that, thinking about the different perspective, start saying, thinking about the different perspective, in history, we have to think from the time and place of the people of the time, right? If we say what we would do, it'll be different. So from May 2nd until May 5th, 1963, kids your age and younger filled up the jails in what was known as Project C. So Project C was Project Confrontation.
Project see you later.
You wouldn't go to jail, hey?
Nope.
No? But they filled up the jail, and you'll read about this at the end of the lesson. They filled up the jails and all of that. So right now, what I want you to do is get into a partner group. Yes. Now what you want me to do? You just need one paper per group.
Come on. Can we have three? Come on. We have three.
You got two? How many?
We've been in a group before.
Okay.
We're gonna be hard.
Evan,
Let me escort you over there.
right?
What's up, Ryan?
Caitlin, you have a partner? Caitlin.
Hey, there's two groups of three. Okay, that's fine.
All right.
That means you don't lose somebody.
So you probably want to get to a table so that you can write.
That's gonna leave it a couple minutes. There's 5 more
The
groups.
chart. You got boys and
Somebody let take it.
Okay, so you're in your group. All right, y'all, come to this table so you can pass it around. You can sit on the floor. All right, so we're going to do this together. Do this together. Everybody have this thing. All right. So one person from each group is going to read for me. So raise your hand. Who's going to read first one? Haley, read. Tell us about segregation.
During this time, the city of Montgomery was segregated. This meant that things were different for white people and black people. They had different schools, different churches, different stores, different elevators, and even different drinking fountains. Places often had signs saying, for colored only or for white only. When Rosa rode the bus to work, she would have to sit in the back in the seats marked for color. Sometimes she would have to stand even if there were seats open up front.
All right. So that's something that we've already discussed. That's something we already knew. So what I want you to do now is go to your KWL chart and discuss in your groups what you know about Rosa Parks. You don't have Yes, you write it down in the know section of what you know about Rosa Parks. All right, so what do you know about Rosa Parks? I know that she was arrested. So that's one thing.
Y'all listen to me. She was an independent woman. She was. Well, she still is, but.
Okay, so you know that she was arrested. What else did you know about her?
She was.
Right, she was tired, lean.
She was an independent woman that did it. Did it like the fact that she was giving her person to white people.
All right, so what would you want to know about her? Like for me, like why was she tired? So, you know, what you wonder, what you want to know, why was she tired? What made that day different, right? She had rode the bus plenty of times, and I'm pretty sure there had been situations where, you know, she had to get up. But why this day? Why this day? All right, now you filled in what you know. Now fill in questions that you want to know, just things that you wonder about.
I want to know why
What did they do? What?
Why did the white folks take a seat?
So think about it in terms of what we talked about last week. So segregation, right? What was segregation?
They were the same. They were split up, but they were the same.
So you think it was separate but equal? Was it equal?
No.
Right.
Because they were separate in like the color, and some people thought they were the white people thought they was the white people
Right, it can be anything if you're thinking about segregation in the general term. But the segregation ordinances said what? This is your water fountain, this is your water fountain. And what they found was that the facilities were not equal. All right, everyone filled out to know what they want to know. All right, so each group, one person from your group shares something that you know. Hey.
She was an independent woman that didn't like the white people taking her. Didn't like the facts because they don't like her.
All right, Emily,
Like we got arrested.
you got arrested. Haley,
She didn't want to do because she was like,
all right. Mallory, all right. She's been treated unfair. Bryson,
Rosa was tired of getting ready.
all right. So now let's share Tabitha. All right. So what do we want to know? Carsey.
Why did the white people want to take her seat?
All right, Bryson.
Why was she tired of it?
Right. Mallory. Right. Haley.
Why did segregation start?
All right. So why did segregation start? Now, another group member read the second heading for me. Mallory. Loud so we can hear you.
Fighting for growing up, Rosa Parks had lived with racism in her family. She was scared of the members of the KKK who had burned down black schoolhouses and churches. She also saw a black man get beaten by a white bus driver for getting in his way. The bus driver only has to pay a $24 fine. Rosa and her husband Raymond wanted to do something about it. They joined the National Association for the Advancement of Colored People, NAA.
Okay.
Rosa saw the opportunity to do something when the Freedom Train arrived in Montgomery. The train was supposed to not be segregated, according to the Supreme Court. So Rosa led a group of African American students to the train. They attended the exposition on the train at the same time and in the same line as the white students. Some people in Montgomery didn't like this, but Rosa wanted to show them that all people should be treated the same.
All right. Who wants to read Sitting on the Bus? Bryson.
It was December 1st, 1955, that Rosa made her famous dance while sitting on the bus. Rosa had settled in her seat on the bus after a hard day's work. All of the seats on the bus had filled up with a white man building. The bus driver told Rosa and some other African Americans to stand up. Rosa refused. The bus driver said he would call the police. Rosa didn't move. Soon the police showed up and Rosa was arrested.
All right. Next. Carsey.
Rosa was charged with breaking and breaking out and was paid to pay a fine of $10. She refused to pay. However, saying that she was not guilty of guilty law was she applied to a higher court. That night at a number of African Americans got together and decided to boycott the city bus. This meant that African Americans were no longer allowed the bus. One of these leaders was Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. He became the president of the Montgomery
Association.
It wasn't easy for people to boycott these buses, and many African Americans didn't have cars. They had to walk to work and get around 10 coffee. Many people couldn't go into town to buy things. However, they stuck together in order to make a statement. The boycott continued for 381 days. Finally, the USA Supreme Court ruled that the segregation law in Alabama was
So unconstitutional. After the boycott, Angeline.
Just because the laws were changed, things didn't get any easier for Rosa. She received many
threats and fears for her life. Many of the civil rights movement were bombed, including the home of Martin Luther King Jr. in 1957. Rosa and Raymond moved to Detroit, Michigan.
All right, so they moved to Detroit, Michigan. So on your K and your W that you filled out on your chart, what did we learn?
Okay, repeat please. Teachers, please don't allow your students to touch any of the white poles around the ball field. Mr. Kenny has warned us not to allow the students to touch any of the white poles around the ball field. They're not in concrete and they do not need to be touched. Thank you.
So they're drilling the holes, and you know, if it's not cement and you touch it, it could fall over, and I think it's steel.
It is.
It's steel,
Yes.
so that's gonna hurt. So please do not touch the holes. All right, the L. What did we learn? Emily.
All right, so we learned that she moved to Detroit, Michigan.
What else did we learn? Bryson. Why was she tired?
Because of a long day.
Uh-oh.
Uh-oh. I gotta go to the text on you, Bryson. All right. So you know we kind of went with this when we were gonna do the dramatic strategy. And remember, we started with how it started, right? And Rosa said that people would say that I was tired because of a long day's work. But I didn't get up because I was tired of a long day's work. I was tired of giving in to white people. So was she physically tired? No. She was tired of the situation. Yes, she got off work, but she was not. So remember, we always can use our text as a guide. Haley.
She made her famous in 1955.
So we know that Rosa's situation happened in 1955. What else did we learn? How long did it last, the civil rights movement? The bus boycott. Heather.
381 days.
381 days. I couldn't imagine going to the Walmart for 381 days straight protesting. So do you see that if you were going to be a protester, that means you would have had to have a lot of free time. Haley.
I learned that she would have paid $10 for breaking instead of eviction.
So that was a good one because that was something that I wanted to know when we were talking about it. Some people said $1, some people said $2. So what did we learn? It was how much?
$10.
$10 for breaking the segregation law. What else? Anybody else? And? Nothing? Yeah, what you learned? Tara?
I learned why people are kneeling.
Okay, so why would people make that connection? Okay.
Because they think they should not give like the flag and it is still violence going on and it says that equality.
Right, equality.
And it's not fair because it's still killing black African Americans.
Right. And I feel that I would be remiss if I didn't kind of talk to you about, even though we're focused on KWL Plus, since we did learn about different perspectives, that's why I want you to know. So I want this to be a learning experience for you. Valerie. So has anybody ever heard of the NAACP?
Have I heard?
Yeah. You know what it is?
It's like where I think it was Rosa Parks' husband. I think who started it,
Mm-hmm.
and he got all these people together, and they would start protesting like. Well, they would start making up plans to like where they were protesting stuff,
Mm-hmm.
and then they would go there, and then sometimes they would get attacked, and sometimes the cops would come, and they would bring there was some kind of dog out, and then they would start letting them out on something.
Right. So it was the fire hoses, right? Dogs. Do you know how much power comes out of a fire hose?
Yeah.
I think it's like 100 miles per hour. So if it comes, it's gonna rip, tear, and break. So thinking when you see the video, right? And if our computer would work, we were gonna watch a video, but you know how Miss Gibbs couldn't.
Like I do
work.
put it on.
But when you cut it on, it turns off.
I know how to do it.
No, it don't. No, it don't. She did it yesterday.
She fixed it?
Yes.
Oh, I wish I would have known. Okay, what did you learn, Haley? Okay. So after, Civil Rights Act of 1964, did things change?
Wait, yes.
A question? Think about it. If Colin Kaepernick is protesting in 2017, and this Civil Rights Act of 1964 supposedly gave, everyone equal rights and for no discrimination against black people, then why do you think that some people say that Colin Kaepernick and others, who was the other person we were talking about? Michael Bennett and other people are the new face, are the face of the new civil rights movement. So we're making a comparison. He's protesting like Martin Luther King did in 1960, right? Why is he protesting?
Because he's trying to do what's right.
He's trying to do what's right. What is that?
Stop segregation.
Are we segregated?
Oh, no.
No, because Haley and Angelina and Cannon Bryson and Hayes Jack and Evan Taft and Jason would have been in this room. It was in another room.
Right?
In school. And like the
academy school.
Right. Right. So we know the segregation, but what is Colin Kaepernick's protest? Why is he protesting? Remember that quote that I read at the beginning?
I have another one I want to know.
What do you want to know?
What about the mixed people? What they do with them?
Ooh, good one,
White
good one.
and black.
What they do to you too?
All right, so a mixed person,
Yeah, what would they do to them?
and I don't want to give it away for you, Hayden, but you're going to read about that in the 1963 Birmingham Children March just here shortly. But with the mixed people, people come in all shades, right?
So he can go to any school, can he?
No. Right, you're still a person of color.
He's still cursing, so they can still call him black.
Yes. Back in the day, they did what they call a paper brown test. A paper bag test. So with me, do I pass? No. So I'm darker than this, right?
Yeah.
Connor, can you pass?
Yes.
No.
You tried. I thought you can.
No. So you're not lighter than this paper? Are you lighter than this paper bag? Okay. So anybody lighter than this paper bag would be considered white.
She was.
Put your pants back on. Everybody look alike.
Emily?
Art,
Ah, Emily Wood.
Emily Wood passed. Emily passed.
Ah, so in the book, Children's 1963 Birmingham Children March, there was a girl named Arnetta and James. Listen. All right. So there were people, they called them high yellow. High yellow. So Arnetta's in the jail, right? She's protesting. And a white lady came up to her and said, "What are you doing in here?" She said, "I want my freedom." And the lady laughed at her because she thought she was white.
I have a question. Why? Alright. If she wanted freedom, why would you put herself in jail? So we have less freedom.
All right. So as you will read, Project Speed was confrontation. All right. And James Bevel said, everyone in this room, it's your fault. You are the ones who are letting the people oppress you. Because if you stand back and do nothing, right? So what was he doing? He was lighting that fire under there. Connor, it's your fault.
Yeah.
Why is it Connor's fault?
Because he's not doing anything.
Exactly.
He's seeing all of this and he just is home playing an Xbox. I'm trying to go to Walmart and lower the prices and he just sat there.
No, he said he would go. He said that was Haley. That's Haley.
He just sat there in
Not
the
Haley, but
house.
Antonisha. That's Antonisha.
But think about it. I use that to make it interesting for you guys. I try to be boring, right? But let's think about it. It was serious. Is it serious what's going on now? You don't think so?
I still think it's serious. Like you said, this was a soccer player, and then he made a goal. He made a goal at the, I think it was like it's called, I don't call it World Cup.
World Cup Series?
Yeah, and then this black man tried to run up, you know, like the little stands and stuff. He tried to run up and hop up on it, and this white man pushed him down, started throwing banana peels at him and stuff, and called him a black monkey.
Oh my goodness. So as long as we live, my hope, right?
Monkeys are brown.
You hear me?
But he said black monkey
As
though.
long as we live, do we agree that we're gonna have good people?
They black.
Hey, listen,
Black.
listen, Ada Knapp. Do you think that we're gonna have good people and bad people
Yes.
5,000-6,000 years from now?
Yeah.
We should have good people and bad people.
Yes.
Huh?
They're robots. I am.
As long as you have human beings, you're gonna have good people.
How you know?
But my hope is that racism dies because it's the craziest thought, right?
Yes.
I don't like Evan because he's white. I love Evan. Evan's my buddy.
But you just said you didn't like it.
No, I'm just saying as an example. Why would I do that? He's nice.
Yep.
He's smart. He's respectful.
He didn't like it because he's white.
No.
Right? Not like that. He said it as
An
a
example. I love everybody. Right? I may not like you some days.
Like now.
Right? But if you want fire, I'd throw some water on you. Take you to the hospital. Haley. All right, so let's move back to our desk individually so we can. Yes. So move back to your desk and you're going to.
Do we have to?
Yes, because it's time for you to do your independent practice. Yes, anyone need to go to the restroom before we do independent practice? No, do not be loud in the hallway.
fine.
Yeah, keep those, but you're gonna actually turn in your rubric and your KWL plus chart. So I'm gonna give you a new. So this is all you need right now.
Oh, yes. Wait, no, wait.
No, you know, I'm so used
We
to
do, but
being
we
in the
don't
high
have
school.
enough class. We don't have enough.
Oh, that's great, that's great.
What can we call that?
For that, yeah.
Y'all can we call that? I'll just look over there. I don't know. Last time it was math. Why Irma was math? Okay, well, don't be sick now. She don't. I'm surprised it ain't math.
So it is important.
Mine.
All right, Evan. There's your rubric and your KWL plus grid. When they get back, I'm gonna go over the plus.
What?
Oh, yeah.
Hey, Joanna, they're better than I did. I got a 66 in reading. I got a D. We take a test or something?
I got a 35 in home studies.
And what? Social studies? Social studies, I got a 70.
Mr. Burchett,
Mine is
get
well
mine
in
in
science,
social
I got an
studies.
80.
What?
35?
And an 80.
Good, I got an F in social studies.
Hey,
That's
that's gonna be your self-assessment rubric.
I had
And-
this. I
Mr.
had
Burchett,
I had 16. I thought I got like a 73.
if I was gonna fall in this giant crate, would you catch me? I might.
Of course it would be.
And don't have good, nice you were today.
Oh, okay.
No, I didn't know how to do that. I guess
There was giant crate. Yeah. No, you can fall in. Would you catch me? What? If I was gonna fall in giant.
All right.
Where's that?
I set an alarm so I can stay on.
Ooh, like Miss Gibbs.
Yeah, like.
Where's Miss Gibbs? She left. She did. Her car is not good. She left.
All you need now is this.
Yeah.
And
I
we've
like
got
the
one.
one they got.
Self-assessment.
Ain't got a black car. They got a gray car. I saw her drop. I'm looking. I've only dropped right there.
Most people have.
She got a gray car. That black car. No, it ain't. That's coaching.
Now you have the
You got it. I thought it
1963
was
Birmingham children's.
I guess what color? I guess she's watching me. Oh, I got heart. You got this. You got this. You got this. Here. Thank
Everybody got one of these.
One of these. All right, so everybody's back?
Yes.
Yes.
Everybody got one of these.
All right, listen. Check to make sure that everyone has a self-assessment rubric. You have a self-assessment rubric. Does everybody have a KWL plus grid and concept map?
No.
No.
Yeah.
Wait, is this it?
I got two of these.
No,
I got two of these. I got two of these.
You have a new one? Okay.
Oh, yeah, I do.
Okay.
I'll do quick set. And I'll ask you, Mr. Burchett, I got two of them. I wouldn't.
All right. Does everyone have the 1963 Children's Birmingham March?
Yes. No, hold on. Read it this.
It's
We
this.
didn't read the whole thing.
We're gonna read the whole thing. That's
I
why.
don't have it. I don't have it. I'm gonna read the first paragraph.
No. This is independent practice. You're gonna do this independently.
I don't have one.
You don't have one.
You gave it to me.
All right. So let's review so that you understand what it is that you're going to do. All right. Okay. All right. So in doing this, we always forget about that plus. Our subject would be Rosa, right? What was she a part of? Which boycott? No, the Montgomery bus boycott.
Oh.
Right? Who? The Montgomery bus boycott. What was she fighting for?
Freedom. Equal rights.
Freedom, equal rights.
I put it in my book, King.
All right. What else did we learn? We learned that after the boycott, she moved to the north. Why did she move to the north?
There's more freedom up there.
Less
freedom.
What you mean less freedom?
That's
More freedom.
That is south.
Y'all talking, Emily's talking.
It's like they threatened her, burned down other interfered from
Right. Then this is after the boycott. Right?
Stop now.
What else do we know? What did we learn? How long did it last? 381 days. So you see what we're doing with the concept map? We're putting our topic, right? We have our topic in the middle. We have some key points, main ideas of the passage. And this is to help you summarize the informational text. Because you're taking the key details that you learn and you're adding them to your concept map. All right, so you see here you have the 1963 Birmingham Children's March, right? So individually, silently, really? All right, you will read this, and then before you read it, however, you're going to fill out the K and the W part of the KW chart. So write your name, just your first name on the paper. Your topic is going to be what? No, we're moving on from Rosa.
The children's march.
The Children's March. What do you already know based on our reading of the 1963 Children's March?
That most of them ended up in jail. Well,
We know they went to jail. We know they were children went to jail.
the police would let dogs out on them and stuff.
Okay.
No, not on the children. Oh, well, whatever.
All right.
On the children, they would go to jail.
So then you're going to say what you wonder, right? You're going to read the text, then write what you learned. Make sure you're looking at your rubric. For completeness, it says the student completed all 3 columns with several ideas for each one, right? So that's outstanding. If the student was not able to complete all of the columns on the chart, that means that you need improvement, right? So make sure you use your self-assessment rubric as a guide. And And then on the back, don't forget to summarize using your concept map. Yes, no.
I got two.
All right. You may begin.
I need one too. Let's go.
One of these.
No, the other one.
I need one of these.
Nope, one of those you pass now.
Yeah, one of these.
It's right there. Yes. All right. You have 15 minutes. 15. Okay.
Say 20 minutes, can't do it.
The 15.
Good.
So remember, you're writing what you know about the children's movement. What do you know? Remember, what you know is what you know. You know that the civil rights movement was going on, right? And so you know that the children were involved in that, right? So that's what you know. You write what you know. You're just trying to think about it, activating that background knowledge. So don't overthink it, because you'll find out that you know more than you think you know. So look at your rubric. And make sure that you're using the terminology. Trust me, it happens to me a lot. When I'm so used to typing in autocorrect that when I write, I'm like, that doesn't look right. It could be a simple word, right? It could be a simple word. I'm like, that doesn't look right. All right, Tarzan. You can read it. Anyone have a pencil that Connor can borrow?
You got a crayon. I know. You go crayon.
There's a vegetable in these Sharpies.
Cameron, will you leave? I'll come give you a crayon. Huh? I just said, I'll come give you a crayon. I'm so retarded.
Did I just give you that baby?
So it's all right if you didn't know a lot of information, right? But after you read, you should go back and think about some things, generate some questions about things that you might want to know. And don't forget your plus on the back, because remember the plus, your topic goes here. You got your concept note on the back. So your topic is what? Children's Birmingham March. And what are the key ideas from that? And remember to use your self-assessment rubric. Make sure that you're meeting the criteria. All right, we got 5 more minutes. All right, so let's stop so that we can recap. I'm gonna call on a few people to share what you've learned. Haley, can you share one thing you learned?
I learned that 20 people were injured during a bombing in the church.
So 20 people were injured during the bombing in the church. Mallory,
I learned that the people who bombed the church were some white stuff.
so white supremacists, Tarsay, what you learned?
I learned that March I learned that
Okay, Haley?
I learned that girls the age of 14 and 17 sat in a detention center.
So they're in jail. Who is George Wallace?
George Wallace, he insists that no local or state officials have knowledge of any so-called agreement.
All right, so that George Wallace was saying what? We didn't sign up for any agreement. You can't tell us what to do in the state of Alabama. There's no law. But who signed the law? We learned before that it was Lyndon B. Johnson, right? He signed the law. It's the Civil Rights Act of 1964. So you make those connections. So let's review what KWL plus is. So we know the K is what?
But you know.
The W
What you wanna know.
L. And the plus?
The main ideas and
The main ideas and topics. Very good. So let's make sure that we met this objective. Did you summarize informational text using key detail?
Yes, sir.
Did you identify the cause and impact of the civil rights movement?
Yes, sir.
What was the impact of the people pushing back? What happened as a result? Hey,
People getting arrested and beaten and stuff like that.
no, of the movement.
Oh.
So what was the result of the movement? We know the cause was they wanted equal rights. Did they get to equal rights? So, right. So the impact would be what?
They got equal rights.
They got equal rights.
Everybody got equal rights.
The Civil Rights Act of 1964 ended illegal discrimination. I mean, it made discrimination against black people illegal. Does discrimination still take place today?
Yes.
Not only on black people, but
But
white people, people with disabilities, minorities, immigrants. So discrimination, again, like I told you, would be what? 2,000 years from now, do you think people will be discriminated against?
No. Yes.
Our hope is that it won't.
So we'll be looking down on them.
But I've told you, my belief is you're always going to have good people, you're always going to have bad people. But I believe there are more good people in the world than bad.
I do too.
But thank you all for your time.
Right, guys, what do you want to do with their work, Mr. Mitchell?
They're going to turn it in.